It's time to pick every game that your team will play in 2024, as well as predict the final Big 12 standings. This is Locked On Big 12.
You are Locked On Big 12, your daily podcast on the Big 12 Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Big 12. I'm Drake Toll from America's #1 Big 12 podcast, Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. Today in the opening segment, the top 5 teams in the conference and their schedule. We go through it all. Middle segment, our middle 5. We'll finish the show with the bottom 6, as well as a reveal of the final standings. If you hit subscribe, I get to keep my job. Without further ado, who I believe will be the #1 team in the Big 12 in 2024, the Kansas Jayhawks. Why a favorable schedule? Listen to this. Lindenwood, win. Illinois, on the road, you're the better team. That's a win. West Virginia is coming up, but first, a UNLV win at home sets you up for a game in Morgantown that I believe the Jayhawks walk away with, and the reason why is West Virginia has the number 12 D-line, 15 linebacking core, and 11 DB circuit in the Big 12 Conference per Pick 6 previews. The offense of Kansas gets it done in Morgantown, though I do believe West Virginia is very good. TCU at home, you're the better team, win. At Arizona State, win. Versus Houston, that's a win. Your first 7 games, you easily go 6-1. Then you hit the road against Kansas State. Tough road test. You lose the Sunflower Showdown, but then come back home against Iowa State. Evenly matched game, tight game, Kansas wins. At BYU, you're the better team. Versus Colorado, you are the better team. At Baylor, you are the better team. Kansas finishes 11-1, partially because of a fairly easy schedule. Lance Leipold gets it done to the first team in the conference to punch its ticket to Arlington. And the number 2 slot, tied at number 2. The Utah Utes. Will they make it to the championship game via the tiebreaker? I'll get there. Southern Utah, win. Baylor at home, non-conference game, win. At Utah State, win. At Oklahoma State, you're going to fall there. Ollie Gordon is a very good running back, likely a night game in Stillwater. Tough place to play. I like the experience of a Big 12 team versus a brand new squad coming in and playing a tough game. Give me Oklahoma State, not shocking. Arizona at home, though. They're a good team. You take that game. At Arizona State, you're getting a win streak going. Now listen to this stretch. Arizona State, TCU, Houston, BYU, Colorado. I believe only one of those schools is going to make a bowl game. So that's a great little run for Utah. They win all of those games, whether home or road. Then Iowa State at home in their 11th game of the season. Utah gets the win in a tightly contested game. I like Rocco Beckna Abusama. UCF on the road to end it. You win it. You clinch Arlington, but you don't. You fall to Gus Malzahn's squad because what Kyle Whittingham loves to do is lose multiple games in a season. He does it with 2 losses here, 10-2, 7-2 overall, tied with the Kansas State Wildcats. Easy slate to start you here. UT Martin, Tulane, those are both easy wins. Arizona at home in a non-conference game. You're the better squad. Same thing as Utah playing Oklahoma State. That school has to go on the road. You, Kansas State, get the dub. BYU on the road. You're the better team. That's a win. Oklahoma State at home. Tough game, but I like Avery Johnson and DJ Giddens and Kansas State to take it home. At Colorado, you're the better team. That's a win. At West Virginia, I love West Virginia as the curators of chaos this year. Because of the backfield that they bring into 2024, they're going to make a couple teams slip up. That's what happens here. Lost to West Virginia. You beat Kansas in the rivalry game. You go on the road to Houston. That's a win. Arizona State, Cincinnati, those are both wins. Pretty easy. Then at Iowa State, they get you again. The Cyclones beat the Kansas State Wildcats, leave them tied at second place. Will they go to Arlington? Let's find out. Arizona is tied right there with them. I get it. Dude, I get it. You don't want to hear that. I didn't really want to hear that when I wrote it down, but it's the exact case that we're in. They've got New Mexico, Northern Arizona to start their season. Those are both wins. Then on the road against Kansas State, that loss won't count for conference play, so keep that in your back pocket. A 2-1 start doesn't affect them in Big 12. On the road against Utah, that's a loss, but here's where the schedule gets a little bit easier. Texas Tech at home. That's a win. You're at home. Noah Fafita, T-Mac are 2 great players. I don't believe in the Tech defense yet. At BYU, dub. Colorado at home, dub. West Virginia at home. I don't love the Mountaineers defense. Give me the dub. Noah Fafita and T-Mac get it done. On the road against UCF, that's tough. But again, I still don't know exactly what I want out of the UCF defense. I think they're good. They're on the upper half of the Big 12. Can they stop Noah Fafita and T-Mac? Houston at home. That's a win. Then on the road against TCU, give me a loss there. TCU's my tricky team. There's always one in the Big 12 where you go, those guys could actually be really sneaky against good competition. TCU upsets you. You beat Arizona State to finish it 9-3, 7-2 overall for Arizona. And because if you did the math in that tiebreaker, the way it falls, Kansas plays Utah in the Big 12 championship. Kansas State and Arizona, despite having the same Big 12 record as Utah, will miss out on the championship game. Now we go to the fifth place team in the conference. They're also tied for fifth. Iowa State beating North Dakota, beating Iowa on the road. I love it. I just don't trust Iowa. I trust Rocco Beck and Abu Sama instead. Arkansas State's a win. These are two easy games. Houston and Baylor at home. Those are both wins. On the road against West Virginia, a school who I think will have 8 wins this year, you will lose that game. At home against UCF, defend the home turf. Do it again against Texas Tech. That's not a very easy stretch. You go West Virginia, UCF, Texas Tech, Kansas. I think Iowa State goes 2-2 in that stretch, beats Cincinnati, loses at Utah, and then beats Kansas State to end the year. And it's a very solid 9-3 campaign, 6-3 in the Big 12. They win 10 games when they win the bowl game for the first time ever. That's the Iowa State prediction. Coming up, who's tied with them at fifth? That's on Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to all of you at home by our friends at Game Time. Game Time is the number one place to find tickets to your next big event, whether it's a concert or you're going to a college football game or you're going to a Major League Baseball game as that season winds down. Game Time is the place to go. And they have a brand new deal for Labor Day coming up as well. 50% off tickets to the Dodgers at Diamondbacks game on Labor Day, exclusively on Game Time with limited availability and supply. Get your tickets while they last. So, Game Time. You take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Last minute tickets, lowest prices. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account. Redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel, the number one place that I love to go during the college football season. I'll be bringing you all of my picks this year on my Thursday picks with FanDuel. You've heard us talk a lot about it. It's America's number one sports book where they're doing something neat. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with the YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need, a Google account, current form of payment. You can cancel anytime. FanDuel.com/locked on to download America's number one sports book. It is FanDuel.com/locked on. Visit them today. Predicting the middle teams in the Big 12. I've already told you that Iowa State will be the number 5 team in the conference, but they're tied with a couple of other schools, starting with every game that Oklahoma State will play this season. Let's break it down. South Dakota State. Many think this could be a trap game because SDSU is so good. Oklahoma State wins this game by at least 10. They're the better team. They have more figured out than they did earlier last season when they got drubbed by South Alabama. Arkansas at home. Arkansas sucks. That's a win. At Tulsa's a win. And then Utah at home. A 4-0 Oklahoma State team is top 15, on the verge of top 10 after they beat the Utes, who are a top 10 team when those two schools play. The bad part, you go on the road against Kansas State. Chalk that up as a loss. Very good Kansas State team, tough to play on the road. I like Stillwater and Boone Pickens, but West Virginia coming to town, that running attack, the offense of West Virginia, they are the chaotic team, one of the few chaotic teams in the Big 12 that will trip someone up. You lose that game at home. At BYU, win. At Baylor, win. Arizona State, win. That's a pretty easy stretch. TCU on the road. Same thing with the Frogs. Oklahoma State's the better school. Josh Hoover is going to have an up and down season. When he is up, TCU can win. You're on the road, you lose that game. Then Texas Tech at home, Colorado on the road. Oklahoma State winning both of those games will finish at 9-3, 6-3 in Big 12 play. And that makes a whole lot of sense to me. They are also tied at 5th with our friends from UCF. A very, very good season. It's on its way in Orlando with KJ Jefferson, RJ Harvey. New Hampshire, win. Sam Houston, win. At TCU, started with a bang. Win for UCF. Colorado at home. You flash the offense, you torch their defense. That's a win. You've got 2 running backs that had 1,400 plus yards last season. On the road against Florida. Florida's got a gauntlet, and I don't think they're very good. Give me a UCF win in that game to start not just 5-0, but after beating Cincinnati, 6-0. Then you go to Iowa State. That's where things get tough. We're getting a little bit colder that time of year as well. You take the loss. I don't think you'd be too upset with that. You started 6-0. Things are about to get a bit more rocky. BYU at home, win. Arizona at home. Noah Fafita, T-Mac. I'm going to keep mentioning those names all season long because of how good they are. They don't have a solid running game. Their defensive linebacking core is number 2 in the Big 12. Their DB core is number 4 in the Big 12. They're going to give people fits. Arizona is a loss at home for UCF. At Arizona State, that's a dub. At West Virginia, that is a loss for UCF as well. Again, West Virginia's offense, despite how UCF has a defense that's above the top half of the Big 12, West Virginia's offense is going to give people fits. Give me West Virginia in that game in Morgantown. Utah at home. End the season on a high note. UCF will topple a top 10 Utah team and try to keep them out of Arlington. Utah will still make it due to a tiebreaker, but UCF ends the year 9-3, 6-3 in Big 12 play, tied for 5th in the conference with a win against Utah, a huge win against Utah late in the year. Now, we move you to number 8. West Virginia, a couple of teams tied at this spot as well. They beat Penn State to open the season despite computer rankings that have Penn State as 14 to 16 point favorites. Albany's a tough game. That's a win. Pittsburgh on the road, I think it's one of the easiest games they play, maybe easier than Albany. Give me a win there. Kansas at home. Here's the story with West Virginia. They're going to make teams upset. They're going to win upset games. They're also going to lose a couple where you go, oh, and I know the Houston game last year was due to injury, and you can't predict injuries this year. Here, I don't know if West Virginia can go completely unscathed with this schedule. They lose to a very good Kansas team at home. But then they go on the road and beat Oklahoma State. That's what West Virginia is. Iowa State at home, that's a win. Kansas State at home, that's what you just beat Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Kansas State in consecutive weeks. 6-1, West Virginia, number 14 in the country, loses at Arizona. Again, the West Virginia defense has some question marks. Noah Fafita, T-Mac, Carve. Cincinnati on the road, same thing here. West Virginia has no business losing this game. They go to Cincy. They fall at Cincy, a school that I don't think is going to have a very solid football team this year. They've got a couple of running backs that scare me. Their defense is okay. Their offensive line is solid. They're going to win at least one game. I think it's in this spot. Baylor at home, win. Very good UCF team at home. That's a win as well. And then on the road against Texas Tech, I think these two teams are very even. Give me the home team in that matchup. West Virginia, a brutal schedule, still goes 8-4, 5-4 in Big 12 play. Next season, hopefully the schedule is a little bit easier for you guys. Tied with them, I predict a pretty good year for TCU. I think that this school bounces back. Stanford's a win. LIU's a win. I do have them losing at home against a UCF squad that I have a lot of respect. I think Gus Malzahn's going to turn a lot of heads. At SMU, no confidence in Rhett Lashley's squad. 3-1 start for TCU. Then the game at Kansas is very tough. 3-2, playing Houston at home, 4-2. On the road against Utah, 4-3. Texas Tech at home. I do believe they'll be evenly matched teams down the stretch here. Give me TCU in that game. At Baylor, once again, this kind of going back to the Arizona thing. The West Virginia, losing to Arizona and the following week losing to Cincinnati. TCU will lose a game where you go, shoot, we got Big 12. I think it's Baylor this year. The Baylor Bears in a rivalry game prove why rivalries are rivalries. Oklahoma State at home? What? It doesn't make any sense. You just lost to Baylor. How are you going to beat Oklahoma State at home? Because that's what the Big 12 is this season, and that's why I think Josh Hoover will have a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and when he's up, he beats Oklahoma State, and he beats Arizona. What a rally to win the last 3 after you finish off Cincinnati. 8-4, 5-4 in Big 12 play, tied for 8th in the conference, and you're tied at 8th with Texas Tech as well. So it's West Virginia, TCU, and Texas Tech all right there. Abilene Christian a win. At Washington State a win. North Texas a win. Arizona State and Cincinnati are both wins. What an easy way to start the year for Joey McGuire and Texas Tech. You are 5-0 going into a game at Arizona. Brent Brennan, by this week, has already got stuff put together. I've already mentioned how lethal that offense is. That is a loss for Texas Tech on the road. Luckily, you come back home to Lubbock. You beat Baylor. You're still in the top 25. After going 5-0, you're in the top 25. A loss to Arizona doesn't push you out. 6-1, you're a top 25 school. But on the road against TCU, a team that I do believe will be better than most people give them credit for, a comparable team, you lose. At Iowa State, I think Iowa State is a touch better than Texas Tech this season. A road game in Ames. Give me the Cyclones. Luckily, you win 2 of your last 3, including a big one to finish it off. You beat Colorado in your 10th game of the year. Oklahoma State on the road is a loss in your 11th game. That makes sense. And West Virginia is a win in your final game. Texas Tech bounces back with a gritty, hard-earned, tough schedule, 8-4 finish in 2024. Coming up, who will the last six, the bottom six teams in the Big 12 be, and what are the overall standings? On Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, this is your team, and it's every day. Today's show, brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Sometimes I get tired, and when I do, 5 Hour Energy is right there to pick me up. It is my favorite thing to drink when I'm tackling a to-do list or after lunch or before a workout or watching sports. Get in the zone with 5 Hour Energy shots. Zero sugar, convenient, portable size. Perfect pick-me-up. Their website has flavors like watermelon, tropical burst, grape, berry. On the site, you have the option to build your own 12 or 24 packs as well. If you go to 5hourenergy.com, that's the number 5, hourenergy.com, and get some 5 Hour Energy product today, you can use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB to receive 20% off your order. This order is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Go to 5hourenergy.com today and get 5 Hour Energy. Let's take you through the bottom six teams in the Big 12 this season. We've already given you the top 10. We begin the bottom six, number 11, BYU. Southern Illinois, win. I don't believe in Rhett Lashley. That's a win. Never playing Laramie. Not buying it here. I've got BYU starting 3-0. Wyoming's got some overhaul. They haven't been consistent the last couple of seasons. Give me a 3-0 BYU. Kansas State, a loss at home to a better Kansas State team. At Baylor, I believe at this point, Baylor will struggle so much, BYU might actually have more fans in the stands. They win the game. Arizona at home, much better team, a very good offense. That's a loss for BYU. And you go on a brutal stretch. Oklahoma State loss. At UCF loss. At Utah, can't get it done. Kansas at home, not going to win that game. Luckily, at 4-6, BYU flips the script from last year. And instead of losing all the way down the stretch, they pick up 2 wins at Arizona State, against Houston. BYU bounces back 6-6, 3-6 in Big 12 play, 11th in the conference. 11 teams in this league make a bowl. Colorado sits behind them at 12th. North Dakota State, I'm going to give you a win. They're a little bit down from what they've been. Not a ton, but a little bit. At Nebraska's a loss. At Colorado State, that school might go 1-11. Their only focus in the offseason has been beating Colorado, and they'll get it done. Baylor at home. Colorado comes back. Their skill position guys are too good for a very bad Baylor defense. You win. You're 2-2. At UCF, Kansas State at home. At Arizona, very tough stretch. 0-3 there. Cincinnati at home. You're a better school, a better team. That's a win. And then a really brutal stretch to end it. All bowl teams. Texas Tech on the road. Utah at home. At Kansas. Oklahoma State at home. That's a very, very hard stretch. Of your last 8 games, 7 of them are losses, and they're all brutally tough. Colorado finishes with a final record of 3 wins, 9 losses, 2-7, and tied for 12th. Who are they tied with? A team that they beat, the Baylor Bears. Tarleton State is a win, despite them being a top 20 FCS school. You will lose to Utah. Air Force has a lot of turnover, but they do every year. That's part of them being Air Force, military. That's a loss in the same way it was in a bowl game 2 years ago. Colorado on the road. They are a much better skilled team. They will get the win. Baylor loses. This is a 3-game losing streak now that's accentuated by BYU showing up to 1-3 Baylor, having a bigger crowd in McLean Stadium, and winning the game. BYU beats the Bears. Iowa State on the road. They're a better team than you. Texas Tech on the road. They're a better team than you. Oklahoma State at home. They're a much better team than you. Those are all losses as well. Baylor looks up. It's lost 7 straight. Is Dave Aranda still the coach? They're 1-7. If Dave Aranda gets fired here, that's why I have Baylor beating TCU at home. In the same way that TCU fired Gary Patterson and beat Baylor the very next week, I think Baylor is going to sneak up on somebody, somewhere. They do it against TCU. They get the win. At West Virginia is a loss. You never won there. At Houston, a win. Baylor's not going to go winless in Big 12 play despite going 3-9 last year. Kansas at home is a loss. Jeff Grimes returns. 3-9 finish for the Bears. 2-7 in Big 12 play. Tough non-conference keeps you out of that 5-7 range. They are also tied with Cincinnati. You'll beat Towson. You will lose to Pitt at home, though I do believe Pitt's not great. You'll lose to Pitt at home. Miami, Ohio returns a lot of production. I've done a lot of Googling. Miami of Ohio beats Cincinnati in Cincinnati. Houston at home, you rebound to start 2-2 on the year after a win against the Cougars. At Texas Tech, loss. At UCF, loss. versus Arizona State. I think they're gritty. Loss. At Colorado, better skill position team. They've got a Heisman contender, Travis Hunter. They're not going to go winless. You will lose that game as well. Then, when all hope seems gone as a 2-win team with 4 games remaining, you beat West Virginia. The same West Virginia that lost to Houston last year who fired its coach. And I know that they were banged up for that game. But Cincinnati, you're going to get somebody. And maybe it's right after you fired Scott Satterfield, you beat West Virginia. At Iowa State is a loss. At Kansas State's a loss. TCU at home, you're the worst team. You will fall in that game. Cincinnati 3-9, 12th in the Big 12, 2-7 in conference play. Then at 15th, at 15th, Arizona State. Wyoming's a win. Mississippi State's a win. I really think Mississippi State's going to reek this year, and I don't hate Kenny Dillingham. Great coaching staff. They've got a couple of pieces, but the schedule gets tough. At Texas State, very good group of 4 team. Loss. At Texas Tech, that's a loss. Kansas State, it's the same Texas State, by the way, that beat Baylor last year. Kansas is a loss. Utah, you will not win that game. Cincinnati on the road, again, it's part of the Big 12. You're going to get somebody. You're going to get a win somewhere in here. You will win at Cincinnati, and then you won't get that feeling again. At Oklahoma State, at home against UCF, at Kansas State. Brutal. You fall in each of those. Kenny Dillingham's still the coach when you lose to BYU at home. Then you go to Arizona. That is also a loss. It's 3-9 for Arizona State, though I do believe of these bottom 6 teams, if any is going to shock me, it will be you. 16th, here you go. And this is by virtue of a first-year head coach. Similar to how Baylor went 1-16 under Matt Rule in year 1. And I'm telling you, I like Willie Fritz. You go 1-11. The only win on the schedule is Rice. You have tough games like Iowa State, Oklahoma, Kansas, Utah, Kansas State, Arizona. You even lose to Baylor this season. A couple of coin flip games like Baylor, Cincinnati, TCU, BYU. Those are losses for the Cougars in 2024. Here they are. Locked On Big 12's final standings. Kansas and Utah meet in the conference championship game after we beat out a tie for second in the conference with Arizona, Kansas State, and Utah. Arizona and Kansas State, as I mentioned, are tied for third. At 5th and tied for 5th, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, UCF. Tied for 8th. These teams are all going bowling. West Virginia, TCU, Texas Tech. At 11, the final bowl-eligible team in the Big 12, BYU. Now 12 through 16 is as follows. Colorado, followed by Baylor, then Cincinnati, Arizona State, and Houston make up the rear. Those are the 16 teams in the brand new expansion Big 12 conference, and that is exactly how things will shake out. That is with the use of not just the Google machine, but also Brett Ciencia's Pick 6 previews and putting together how every unit from transfers to guys who stayed to guys who left will play on the field in the Big 12. Don't be shocked by the upsets. I picked plenty of upsets in here that probably won't happen, but that's why they're called upsets, is because they sneak up on you. We are just tomorrow away. We're tomorrow away from Big 12 football. I'll be in Rice-Eccles Stadium watching Utah and Southern Utah. I'll be at BYU this weekend and traveling all over the Big 12 conference. I promise you, there will not be another Big 12 source, another Big 12 only source that travels as much as I do to watch these teams play all season long. If you want wall-to-wall coverage of this league, you've got it right here with Locked On Big 12. Thank you for making this show your first listen every single day. Put a lot of time into this one. This has been and always will be Locked On. Thanks for making it your first listen every single day. Dose Grande.